Okay. Hi, my name is Felicia. I'm getting a master's degree and I have like a proper adult job, which is stressful. And as a coping strategy, I have too many hobbies. Not too long ago, I was in London and I tried on the dress. I absolutely loved it. Problem was it was 30 pounds and I'm cheap. I came back home, went to my fabric store, found basically the same fabric for $1.50 a yard. So I figured if I'm gonna be doing the sewing, and I don't really interact with people, so I'm gonna make this cool dress and then not really do much with it. I might as well record the process and put it on the internet, because that's what people do now, I guess. Problem is, I don't really like being on camera, and I don't do a ton of video editing, so we'll see how this goes. I'm gonna make a satin slip dress now. Enjoy. Alright, so I didn't actually record the part where I made the pattern for this because I wasn't really planning on recording any of this at that point, but it's just your basic dress block that's been slashed and spread at the bust line to have lots of extra fabric there for the cowl neck, and then reflected up so that you have a built-in facing. I cut out both the front and the back layer on the bias because that gives you those diagonal like fabric grains, and that helps any kind of slip lay better, as far as I know. Then I cut out a couple of strips of fabric for straps later on that I didn't end up using, but you'll see that later. I don't really like bias cuts because typically they take up way too much fabric, and as we've already established, I'm really cheap. But I gave it a shot with this one, and I'm pretty happy with the results. So in order to make the dress, you need a front panel, a back panel, and 2 straps. I ended up having kind of a lot of fabric left over, so it worked out in the end, I'd say. In an amazing twist of fate, my serger actually wanted to behave when I was working on this project, so I was able to serge all the raw edges, which is helpful because satin does tend to be a bit pesky with like shredding and stuff, if you're not super careful. So yeah, I serged all of the edges, so the side seams, the hem, and the insides of the straps, as well as the top of the facings, and it went pretty well. Then it was time to sew the actual dress together. I started by sewing down the facings so that they would be in place when I did the side seam. I did initially plan to do French seams with this, so essentially you sew wrong sides together so that you have a seam on the outside of your garment, and then you press that really nice and flip it, and then sew the right sides together on that same seam line, so you end up with a fully enclosed seam. But I made it way too big initially on accident. So the French seams are gone in the final product because I just serged the edges when I was taking it in. Regardless of how you finish the seam on any garment though, I always recommend taking an iron to it. I absolutely hate ironing. I'm way too lazy to do it with any of my clothing, but when I'm sewing, it's a must. I have that tailor's ham there, which is actually a fairly recent addition at this point, but I love it. I use this teeny tiny iron, which isn't really functional for anything else but seams, and it just gives you such a cleaner look in the end. Once the side seams were sorted out, it was time to work on the straps. I absolutely hate doing straps. They're my least favorite part, especially when you're aiming for like a thin looking strap. I should probably invest in an actual loop turner, but I always just put a safety pin on one end and then work the safety pin all the way through the tube until it's right side out. At that point, I turned the dress right side out, made sure all the seams were looking okay, and called it a night. And by night, I mean probably like a few weeks before I had time to work on this again. Whoops. Once I was back in the studio, it was time to hem the dress. I just used a basic double roll, and it went pretty smooth because this isn't a circle skirt. Circle skirts are the devil when it comes to hemming, but pretty much everything else goes really nicely. You just fold the fabric over once a little bit, and then fold it over again. I aimed for like a 1/4 inch or so in the overall seam. 1/2 inch? That's definitely a 1/2 inch. I'm totally crazy. Voiceover is a struggle. But yeah. Then I was looking at the straps, and I had these ones made. You watch me make them. It was a pain. Nobody had fun. And honestly, they weren't really doing it for me. Because, I mean, they looked fine, but they weren't necessarily spectacular. There was no wow factor to having the satin straps. And if you're going to be making a 100% custom dress, you kind of want the wow factor in every way you can get it. So I trucked back inside. I have an outdoor studio. I built it myself, fun fact, and remembered that I had a ton of chains and also hair apparently, which gave me some room to play around with a few different options. So I was originally going to go with the matching satin strap that I prepped, but after remembering my random pile of chains, I think that this is actually far superior. I think it was originally like a bright gold, but has since, with age and use, worn down to like kind of a white gold silvery color, which actually matches the dress quite nicely. So I will sew the first link onto the point that we created in the pattern, and then figure out some way of turning it into a halter. I don't know if I have any clasps, but we'll see. I lied, of course I have clasps. I have all sorts of random things. Remember the whole too many hobbies? So I measured out the chains a few times and got an order of my favorite webcomics in hard copy, so that's cool. And then it was just a matter of hand sewing the first link in the chain onto the dress. Apparently I patterned in a point for that. I don't remember that, but it was just, you know, the natural spot on the curve there. And then using jump rings to put on a clasp. Sorry, it's really distracting to talk about sewing, remembering my dad sitting next to me for like a solid 45 minutes playing with building toys. He owns a construction company and was just, you know, having a good Sunday afternoon apparently. And now the chains fit, so that's cool. Fine for reveal time? Yeah, reveal time. We'll do it. It's gonna be weird. Reveal. Yay. See you for the next one. Yeah, so you can tell that I take too long when I'm doing these editing parts because that was summer and it's winter, but I had fun. I hope you had fun. I have a lot of projects that I need to edit videos for and finish in general, like Regency short stays and some pre-Raphaelite painting recreations. So if you're interested in seeing those too, stick around, maybe like, follow, subscribe. I also have cute animals, and odds are, if you check out future videos, you'll probably get to see those animals too. So that's one of them. That's Strider. He's being cute. And look at this dog. Yeah, so like the video, thanks.